Good morning, everybody. Today is August 26th, 2026, and today's um, tropical and meteorological forecast and detailed discussion, we'll be going over the Tropics and Invest 96L, as well as the major activity and tropical traffic jam out in the Pacific as of today. So we really are watching those tropics very closely, and we will proceed to. And I will go briefly over the national forecast in this video as well. All right, everybody, looking here at our model track guidance for Invest 96L, we are seeing a pretty persistent signature that this thing does move. I apologize for this. It does move to the northeast over the future couple of days here. Now we do expect this thing to continue west for a considerable amount of time. But this area that it's facing has an extremely high level of upper level wind shear. So with that being said, it's countering like that. So it's going from the south to the north, and with this thing moving west, it's really not gonna allow for too much vorticity. So that's where we're facing a lot of deficit for any development in the system. And I think that's playing, honestly, the biggest role. People love to really speak about storms like this during this time of year, which is valid. It's just that we are still going through that El Nino pattern. It's not really going to have much to feed off of other than warm waters. And warm waters can only do so much because when you have one pro factor towards development, but you have 10 other con factors, what do you think's going to win that, right? So, like I said, you have all of this shear right here, just really countering any vorticity that this thing can wrap into. So, yes, it's very convective as of right now. I don't doubt it'll become a depression by about tonight, but I don't see it making it past roughly 45 miles an hour tops. And now, if here's the thing, if it can stay a little bit, slightly more to the north, let me give you guys a couple scenarios, which, mind you, in none of these scenarios will it necessarily be a threat to land other than potentially Bermuda. Now, if this thing can stay a little bit more north, and it can go like this, right? Give or take 100-ish miles north of what these models are agreeing on, it could avoid a lot of the shear to its south because a predominant amount of the shear is actually coming out of the Caribbean, which is where a lot of these patches are that we're seeing of 40 to even 50, sometimes even 60. You know, we are also seeing some pretty strong shear. I saw shear trends of around 70 countering off to the north. And that's why storms have been staying in this vicinity for a fair amount of time because this is the only really area they can, thrive in. So it's very, 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 very difficult to really determine how this is going to go. But I personally think it's not going to last more than a couple of days. Now, if it does, like I said, manage to take that northern path, we could see a whole different story. We could see a hurricane if it manages to stay north, but it's still going to face that dry air even if it does. Now, could it make it into a moist environment? Absolutely, but I just don't think that's most likely as of right now. All right, everybody, looking here at our GEFS track and its members. So GFS does have, as I said, if it can stay north of the central line, we could see a stronger, a little bit of a higher end tropical storm, and maybe even a low end hurricane. But I highly doubt that as of right now. But 1,005 millibars, and it's just expected to weaken from here. Now, do some of the members agree that if it can stay north, it can absolutely um re-strengthen? I agree. I agree that these members aren't incorrect. Okay. I think that this is a pretty accurate depiction of what we will see if it can stay north. Now, Bermuda isn't out of the conversation, as you can see right here. If it can manage to stay north, Bermuda could see some effects along the south. Well, I would say the entire island just due to the size of Bermuda, but specifically on those southern to southeastern shores there, because if it can gain, like I said, those winds, it can hold traction, it can manage to pull itself together if it stays north of that central line. I really think that we could be seeing a a developing story for Bermuda. But as of right now, interestingly enough, this wasn't the story a few hours ago. Obviously we do have our 18Z model, as you can see up here. Um, they're really liking the idea that it stays south and just is a fizzle, which I'm really glad that these members are picking that because Bermuda isn't the most prepared at this moment, just due to the fact that we are expecting such a quiet season. There's nothing really to watch out for as of right now. But, Bermuda will generally always have something to look out for this time of the year. So that's why we are watching Bermuda closer than any piece of U.S. mainland. And maybe even those Virgin Islands in there and Puerto Rico could see some tropical depression winds if it does manage to stay south. But that's about it for our guidance tracks. Hey everybody, as you can see here, we are looking at our Invest 96L model intensity guidance. They have agreed and they have slowed down significantly from what we were seeing. We were seeing intensity shooting up from not only tropical storm, but some even thinking up to category 3 on this. So to see that they've really slowed down is absolutely phenomenal. So it's really showing that they are agreeing that these environmental conditions aren't as conducive as they thought they were, is amazing. So, as of right now, I think here's my official track for the guidance. I think we'd see maybe 47 to 50 sustained here. And then I think we'll see a pretty decent digression from that point. But that's just my personal. Obviously, you can see our members here are DSHP going the strongest, which is literally just a barely pushing category 1. Now, obviously, some of these members, as you can see right here, are agreeing that re-intensification as it moves northeast-ish is possible. I can't say I disagree, honestly. Because like I said, if it can manage to escape the where the El Nino is affecting the most predominant piece of its area, I think the more neutral areas can support some re-intensification for this. Now, obviously, we do have a jet stream out there in the just off the coast of the New England and Newfoundland. Really, and that's what tore apart our. I think it was 95. It was 95. Got torn apart by the jet stream. So this could do the same if it goes more west than anticipated. So that's really what we are watching when it comes to intensity and the time it has to escape shear, escape dry air, um, and escape choking itself out, really. And I highly doubt that's going to happen. But that is all we've got for intensity as of right now. Okay, everybody, as we can see here, we do have our wind shear model, and obviously you can see we have really strong shear in the Caribbean. So if this thing were to remain west to southwest, it's not going to develop. Now, as of right now, we have its only reasonable gap, which would be right through a certain spot here, and that's here. That would be the small little, give or take, 50-mile gap that it could make in a semi-decent waters and a semi-moist environment. Now, very neutral. Obviously, you do have that jet stream, which tore apart our system we saw earlier. So, it's very complicated. I really don't think conditions are too favorable as of right now. I couldn't say that. I'm not going to go out and say that nothing's going to really happen, but I will say that it is highly unlikely that we see anything truly come of this system. Now, as I stated, it does have this little gap it could shoot, which isn't looking entirely impossible, but it's not looking likely at all. Now, could it reach this little pocket of low to moderate wind shear? Potentially. And obviously sitting up here, we have our Bermuda high, so it's good to see that it is not having too much of an effect on the steering, but it is there to put some slight moderate steering on this. Now, we just got to keep talking about how hostile these winds are and how unproductive they will continue to be towards anything tropical. Convection will be there. We have beautiful, beautiful tropical waves coming off of West Africa, but they just aren't gonna remain um, with these, with these wind shear levels around them, because as you can see, they're everywhere. And where our system is right now is right here. So it's just sitting as of right now in a pocket of high wind shear. So we have to let that. We're gonna have, for starters, we're going to have to let this pattern that I just stated right here just go and slowly push itself away from the system, so the system can then push itself and spin itself into a depression. That is really what we're waiting to happen as of right now, because these hostile winds, these hostile upper level winds, really aren't being productive at all for anything tropical. All right, everybody, looking here at our wide Atlantic model. Obviously we have our little system down here, give or take 300, 400 miles off the coast of West Africa. Explosive, convective, and obviously you can see some pretty considerable vorticity out of this. Now, obviously up here you have a very, 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 very hostile um, jet stream pattern. And off here to the south, very, very cloudy. And we do have ourselves some pretty decent convection and severe thunderstorms here in the northern part of Texas, the panhandle of Texas, as I like to say, as well as the panhandle of Oklahoma. So we do have what could be another wave feeding off of that piece of West Africa. I couldn't tell you if it could develop or not as of right now. It's not even off the coast yet. And then obviously down here you can see a part of the Pacific. Very explosive, extremely explosive. No matter where you're looking at this point in the Pacific, it's going to remain active. So that matters a lot. And then obviously you can see our jet stream really pushes out east, and it's just pretty unforgiving. And we do have what was our tropical wave and system earlier right here. Obviously, just getting devoured by this shear, so it's impossible for this thing to develop from this point forward. But that is all we really have got for you guys for the wide Atlantic tonight. I will update you guys further if any more potentially tropical wave or convective spots persist and proceed to show up. We are over here on weather front, and for today's weather front discussion, we'll be going over the severe weather in the panhandle of Oklahoma as well as Texas. So we've had consistent reports of 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, as well as 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Now we haven't seen 80 yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was an 80-mile-an-hour gust packed in there somewhere. Now we do have a few special weather statements pre-warned out here in Altus and Vernon. Um, and we could be seeing winds of 50 to 55 miles an hour. And then here in southern Kansas to southwestern Kansas, we are seeing a special weather statement with winds of 50 miles an hour. So that is all we really have got for much rain, other than here in western Wisconsin. We do have a special weather statement with winds of 40 and hail of a half inch. But other than that, do have some extra rain through Rock River, southern Georgia getting a little flooding. But that is about it for our rain. Now, if we want to look here at our, where is it? At our, yes, our temperature anomaly. Here it is. So I know this sounds crazy to say, but I will say the Phoenix area and Indio, as crazy as it sounds, they're catching a break. So pushing 100 degrees, yes. But they've been pushing 110 to 115 for the past 2 weeks nonstop. I would say this is a little bit of a rest for them. Now, obviously, it's still extremely life-threateningly hot, especially in Mexicali sitting at 100. So we're going to be watching these temperatures closely, but this is the Southwest, and that's just how it gets in the Southwest. It will continue to stay really hot, whether we like it or not. Now, Du Bois seeing 58 overnight temperatures in Wyoming. Beautiful, lovely temperatures to fall asleep to and wake up to as well. So, Milwaukee seeing 66, very beautiful. Des Moines 72, so the Midwest running some pretty great temperatures. Fargo 71, Bismarck at 68, Pittsburgh 69. As well as New England seeing some pretty beautiful temperatures into the morning. 64 is the average as of right now. And then Texas sitting in those mid 80s to northern Texas in the lower 70s due to those thunderstorms. Now, Florida looking at mid to upper 70s into the low 80s. But that is all we really got. The southeast averaging around 76 degrees. Very beautiful night here in the U.S., as well as the southwest catching a little bit of a break for themselves. And then you have Northern California into the Pacific Northwest. Also, some very viably reasonable temperatures here. We're averaging around 70 degrees. But that is all we have got for weather front tonight. Not too much to talk about as we do move into this afternoon. Okay, everybody, looking at the National Hurricane Center, obviously we have disturbance 2 up here getting actively ripped apart, and I'm pretty sure it's not even there anymore by the jet stream, as well as Invest 96 here, which we are watching, and it is still expected to make that northern turn into the northeast Atlantic. Now, we're still sitting at that high 70% for development. I wouldn't be surprised if they just so happen to maybe even drop this to about a 60. Now, what we could see here is it does develop, and if it manages to linger here, I think it could develop a considerable amount, but I just don't see it lingering. They generally don't. So, as we stated, there's nothing too much we can say about this system, really. It's just gonna go out to sea. Could make a close encounter with Bermuda, but that's about it as of right now. So that is all we've really got for the National Hurricane Center outlook. Alright guys, I just want to thank you all for watching, and I apologize if I wasn't too energetic in this video. I am very sleep deprived right now, and I will be trying to push more content out to you. And I know it has been, I think, 8 days since my last upload, so I will, as I just said, try to remain more consistent. We are going live on Thursday at 4:15 p.m., so make sure to stay tuned for that, because I did plan out that day, so I shouldn't be tired. I actually should remain with you guys and give you up-to-date, real-time info and details about not only the tropics, not only the national forecast, but even a potential brief winter weather forecast for you guys. So I'll do my best to really make that stream a fulfillment for you guys and truly entertaining. And I really hope, even though tonight wasn't too energetic, I really do hope it was informative, life-saving, and there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider subscribing and maybe even dropping a little like. But if you have any questions and or concerns, because I love constructive criticism or anything like that, make sure to comment it, or you can hit my socials, Mike the Hurricane Chaser over on Instagram. That is all I've got for you guys tonight. Make sure to be safe, stay informed, and have a good night.